My name is Juan Jose Gonzalez. I am the Pathways Director for Education Systems Center, and I am joined here by the wonderful folks from various institutions down in Southern Illinois, which I'll give a chance to introduce themselves. Why don't we start with Jennifer, Julie, and then the folks from McKendree.
I am Jennifer Garrison, the Superintendent of Vandalia Community Unit School District 203 in Central Southern Illinois. We serve about 1,450 students. My background, this is my 14th year as a superintendent and the 5th year in Vandalia.
My name is Julie Obermark, and I'm the Vice President of Instructional Services and Chief Academic Officer at Kaskaskia College. Kaskaskia is a community college located in South Central Illinois, and we serve a little over 7,500 students annually.
And I'm Tammy Eggleston. I'm the provost at McKendree University. We serve about 1,500 undergraduates and then another group of students who are graduate students and online. And speaking of graduate and online, I'd like to introduce you to our Dean of Worldwide, Melissa Meeker.
Hi, I'm Melissa Meeker. I'm Dean of Worldwide Programs with McKendree University. I've been with the university for a little over 29 years now, and my passion has always been transfer students because I too was a transfer student. In my role as Dean of Worldwide, I oversee all of the articulation agreements McKendree University has with our various community colleges.
Great, thank you very much. Today we're going to talk about kind of the beginning and implementation and scaling of education pathways in our state, but also in your region. Education Systems Center has tried to incentivize and partner with regions of the state to implement college and career pathways, particularly around kind of education. So I think it has been an opportunity, this is a good time to kind of illustrate kind of what it takes to implement this pathway, what it takes to create transition points along the way, and kind of make sure students can maximize their opportunities of college and career pathways. So with that, I'll introduce us to kind of some of the dynamics here of your institutions.
We're a rural district. We are blessed to have an Oak Hall area vocational center that serves 13 high schools in the region. The facility is actually located across the parking lot from Vandalia High School, so the access for my students is high because logistically we can walk across the parking lot to service our students in the vocational center. As far as the educational pathway, it did not exist before the Scaling Education Pathways Initiative. My background was a program similar to this existed decades ago. I was part of that program. We had an instructor that had taught the early childhood pathways. She was very interested in seeing the pathway come to light once again after 20 some years had passed. So we reached out to Kaskaskia College 3 years ago. And then once Julie came into her role, we really started to lay the groundwork and we started to really see things come together after several challenges. So I'm going to pause and let Julie take it from here.
Yeah, so as Jennifer said, we are the community college district for Vandalia and much of the OCA serving high schools. We are in South Central Illinois and serve about 5 different counties. We have offered the teacher education program through Kaskaskia since about 2004. We have several courses on our books for that, and we have some pathways developed, articulation agreements for our students to transfer. But this is really the first time that we've ever engaged in a pathway from the high school setting to the community college setting and then to the university. So it was a new experience, and obviously with new experiences, there's always some challenges that have to be overcome. But I've been super excited about the opportunity for kids and working with both Jennifer and Melissa and Tammy from McKendree to make this possible.
Thanks, Julie. When Julie first contacted us to see if we wanted to be a partner in this initiative, we were absolutely. Melissa Meeker has been very busy with transfer articulation agreements. So this really is taking transfer articulation to a whole new level by including the high schools in it. We're also excited because of the teacher shortages in Illinois. This seems like just the absolute perfect time to start to get these young people who are interested in teaching to see that they have a clear path right from the beginning. So we are at McKendree, a 4-year private university. We're actually the oldest institution in the state of Illinois. We were founded in 1828, so we're getting close to our 200th. We have teacher education programs available in 12 areas, and I would argue that our education and our teacher education program is one of our strongest. That's been something that we've been kind of known for at McKendree for many years. Again, thanks to the work of Melissa and our registrar's office and our faculty, we've been becoming more and more transfer friendly in the last really decade. And we now will accept up to 90 hours of transfer credit. So we won't have any problem with what Kaskaskia has to offer, that we'll be able to bring that right in. So students won't be at any kind of disadvantage at all. And then we've also been working on our clear path for affordable tuition so that the students can actually afford a high quality educational experience at a place like McKendree, because we already have this clear path. And again, I just want to say that we couldn't do any of this without the work of a whole lot of people working together. But Melissa absolutely works magic. So if we see a course that's being offered at Kaskaskia, we make sure that we're able to articulate that and bring that in. And I think that's really important, that the students in these programs have to know that everything's going to be able to transfer in.
Why don't we kind of get us started off about where we are now and kind of in terms of the implementation of the pathway. So what I would add is, for those kind of listening in, is a college and career pathway in the state of Illinois right now for high school students. It involves kind of significant amount of early college credit, whether that be dual credit, career focused coursework and things of that nature. And that has become, a unique opportunity for high schools, community colleges to partner in the implementation of college and career pathways. But sometimes it's difficult to then get some of those kind of dual credit courses to further transfer to kind of additional institutions. So that has been kind of something that I know that you and Vandalia have been kind of trying to figure out, Jennifer.
Just to dig in a little bit more, what our vocational center scheduling looks like, to give the context and why we might be different than, say, Centralia High School that's implementing an education pathway. If you think of block scheduling, we have 2 sections available, an AM section and a PM section. So since we're partnering with 13 school districts, the big idea was to have access to all 13 high schools, not just Vandalia. So that's why we chose to position it in the vocational center and not just in Vandalia High School. Julie, once we get into the challenges and what we had to overcome, that sounded like a really good idea 3 years ago. What we didn't realize is all of the logistics and all of the, for lack of a better word, bureaucracy that we would have to work through with overlapping community college districts, finding a 4-year partner. Our instructor is credentialed to offer dual credit. Her transcript was looked at by Kaskaskia College and met the ICCB, IBHE, and HLC standards. Julie, if I misspeak on anything, I am depending on you to clarify for our higher education partners that might be listening. And really, what our goal was to look through the student's eyes, and we really want to promote the transferability so that the credit bearing, the courses mean something to them. So whether it's 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours that they're getting in high school, then those hours actually count when they go to the community college, Kaskaskia College, and then on to McKendree. So we're blessed that the 13 superintendents that sit on our vocational board agreed to implement this program. For context, the SEPI grant was a startup grant. There wasn't a lot of financial benefit. But I want to clarify that the SEPI has been amazing from a policy perspective. We would not be having this conversation about scalability of educational pathways if it wasn't for the work of U1 and EdSystems Center. I really want to bring that out in our conversation, because without a state partner, I don't know that we would be where we are today. Julie?
Yeah, so obviously, we're here today because we've kind of reached an end goal and we're ready to kick this program off officially. But obviously getting to where we are now certainly hasn't been easy. Jennifer mentioned that because the program is positioned at OCA, they serve 13 high schools, and not all 13 high schools are of the Kaskaskia College district. Some of them serve in our neighboring community college district. And so one of the things that we really had to work to overcome is the educational courses that could be offered to these groups of students that would align with both community college districts, right? You know, they have an AM group and a PM group, and it would be impossible for the instructor at the OCOS Center to teach two different curriculums from two different, you know, metrics. And so we had to first kind of work together with our neighboring partner to figure out which courses were best aligned between our two community college institutions so that those could be the courses offered there. And regardless of where the student graduated from, that they could go back to their high school with that credit. And you know, anytime you're trying to align different curriculums and different models, it becomes difficult. It becomes challenging. And you know, you just have to keep working through that because there is an industry need for educators. And our job in the higher education world is to help those young people get from their high school into that transition and into the college experience. So I think, you know, there was obviously some learning curves for all of us. And you just keep working through to overcome those with the main focus being on the students.
I think what Julie said is keeping it very student focused is just the essential piece of this really this presentation is trying to figure out what's best for the students in the high school and then the community college. And that does take a little bit of a change in sometimes our vision. I'm going to let Melissa walk through this, since she has been just absolutely our leader in our 2+2s and our transfer articulation agreements.
The one thing I'd like to focus on is the fact that when President Dobbins arrived a couple of years ago, he renewed McKendree's passion for the transfer student. Part of that simply because he too was a transfer student. And so with that renewed vision of trying to meet the needs of the transfer population, we started working closely with various community colleges throughout Southern Illinois to establish these additional partnerships. And when this opportunity came forward to actually take it to the next level and start with the high school student, we were extremely excited. I think the message we'd like everyone to understand is this is an initial educational pathway with Kaskaskia College, and that we're willing to develop additional pathways with other community colleges in a variety of different areas. So Julie, if you have some other areas, I know healthcare is something we've talked about. We have some opportunities that we can continue to be that senior partner to get that bachelor's degree for the students and grow our own. McKendree is once again very committed to a transfer-friendly process. We do the best to maximize the credits for the students, and then also making sure that that application process and the transferability of that curriculum is very seamless for the student.
What are some of the successes that you guys have experienced in implementing this pathway?
I have to highlight the success of our perseverance to get the pathway in place. I know Grow Your Own has a different context, but that's really our vision, our own Grow Your Own program. So there might be a student in the high school who really wants to be an educator, and they decided that back in elementary school, or they might be inspired by a high school teacher, or we can send them to our guidance counselor and say, here's your pathway. And for that student then to understand that he or she will have those opportunities, and we hope to recruit them back into our school system, or at least in the region, as an educator once they complete their bachelor's degree. So that's the big vision. If you know about rural educators, I am one obviously, we tend to gravitate within 30 to 60 miles of where we grew up. I'm from Vandalia. I'm back home in Vandalia. I hope to retire here. And when you talk to other rural superintendents or educators, that's a common theme. So to be successful with a teacher shortage, we really have to look at our own students or even our adult learners, right? Today, we're talking about the high school student and his or her pathway to that degree to hopefully come back in and be an educator in Vandalia School District.
And, you know, from Jennifer mentioned earlier, this has been a long process. Obviously, it's not one that happened within, 2 or 3 months. And it was initially met with some challenges and just change, I guess you would say. But I think that once we were able to start working together, we saw some of those small successes along the way, which kind of kept us motivated. You know, the first step was obviously getting courses aligned, like we talked about. The second step was identifying partners that would be able to get us there. But I guess for me, one of the greatest successes, like Jennifer mentioned, is that grow your own. You know, we're all obviously in Illinois experiencing a decrease in population, so we want to keep our young folks engaged in our communities, and to come back home, if you will, and to be able to do that with this accessibility that we've kind of created here and the affordability, you know, from getting some of those credits in the high school as dual credit, taking advantage of programs at the community college level, working with great partners like McKendree, who have great models in place to ensure that affordability is a true success for me.
And Julie, I think building off of that is once we get this figured out with education, as Melissa already alluded to, we can roll this out with nursing, we can roll this out with business. At McKendree, we have a 4+1 MBA model. I'm looking at Jennifer of thinking, can we figure out a 1+2+2+1, you know, an MBA? There's just, once you start something like this, I always feel like the hardest ones to figure out are the first ones. Yeah. And then after that, we can easily roll into nursing, into business, into some of those other high need areas. And I think just getting partners to talk with one another is really important, that at a college, we need to know what Jennifer's saying in the high schools, and we need to know what our partners at the community colleges need from us. And sometimes it takes a very specific opportunity for us to get together and just talk about those things. So even though this is a very specific initiative, I feel like one of the biggest successes is just thinking about the future and working together more on partnerships.
And the ultimate goal for all of us are the success and seeing the student stay in Illinois and be successful through the pathway. So
I think we've mentioned some of the challenges. Can you all elaborate on where were some of the challenges in implementing the pathway?
So for anyone in higher ed that's on here, obviously we have lots of courses within Illinois that go through the IAI approval process. And what that does for us in places like McKendree or any of our state university partners and fellow community colleges, it just ensures that there's a common standard and that all of us can appreciate and accept those credits. What we don't have in Illinois is an IAI panel for education. And had that been in place, it would have made this process much easier. You know, I can't share with you the amount of time that went into Kaskaskia College, our fellow community college partner, McKendree, evaluating courses to make sure that they were of the quality and rigor needed for each step of the path to get the student what they needed. And if we could have those things done through IAI in advance, it would have made the entire process much, much easier for everyone. And in the end of it, it would have given the students, you know, a little quicker access. I feel like our determination, the three of us here, you know, Jennifer and Melissa and Tammy and myself, we had to work through those things, which we didn't mind doing. Obviously, you know, we all had the focus of the student in mind, but having a process like IAI would be extremely beneficial.
Julie, and I agree with that. And I think it's just an interesting thing in higher ed that I think over the years we try to standardize and try to make everything very specific and standardized. And then we go, no, we want to do it the McKendree way. We know best and we want to have flexibility. And so it is a bit of a problem when you want flexibility and you want to be creative and have your own initiatives at your own institution. But then when we try to come together, all of a sudden we need to have some standards and some sort of standardization. So I think this is a common challenge and probably why sometimes transfers can be challenging, where at McKendree, Melissa and I and the president and others, the registrar's office, the faculty, we're all really trying to let's be flexible for the good of the student while still keeping standards and values and a high quality education in mind. But it's sometimes very challenging to find that right blend of flexibility with standards and rigor.
You know, my impression is with the Illinois Articulation Initiative and the panel for certain majors is it's not just about, most panels only have like 3 courses at most that are transferable for that major, right? So most universities or colleges with the bachelor's degree program are going to predominate kind of the course selection and the dedication to the major. But those 3 courses that are transferable, those 9 to 12 or 4 credits, they have a cascading impact on what courses a student takes, their first or second year of college, and maybe even what courses they take for dual credit while in high school. So I kind of agree with you, Julie, that having an IAI panel for education majors would just create kind of a domino effect of kind of streamline targets of courses for students that they can start taking, while in high school through their first year of college, and then kind of maximize their transferability to a select university or to many universities. So thank you for sharing that. What's next for you all kind of coming out of this new partnership and things of that nature?
Yeah, so obviously, and I don't want to speak for Jennifer, but we've already started talking about additional opportunities. Kaskaskia, we have lots of dual credit at all the high schools in our district. I think last year we ended up having about over 12,000 dual credit hours awarded. And so we definitely want to look at pockets where there are pathway opportunities and get those implemented. I think probably on our radar for our area regionally, knowing what the industry needs are, manufacturing, healthcare, and agriculture are obviously huge industry players in our geographical region. They make up, definitely all in the top 5. And so I think our priority as a group would probably be around those areas. And not only at one high school, but we definitely want to expand these opportunities at other high schools as well. So we're blessed to have lots of articulation agreements in place, lots of them with great partners like McKendree. And we're going to keep exploring those so that we can get kids on a right path and help them get started.
Is McKendree your only articulation for education, or how is that panning out?
So for our education, we actually have 2 currently, but McKendree come to the table and was very willing to work with us on these dual credit classes that would transfer in. So they are our one guaranteed for the educational pathway for the OCOS students.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And we are extremely grateful for their participation. They have just, I think I speak for Jennifer and myself both to say, when we reached out to them and talked through this, they were eager, they were open, and they were just an absolute blessing in that last piece of the puzzle that we were trying to get put together.
And Julie has been fantastic to work with, so that again, when you're going to be a partner, you have to have partners on both sides. So she's not just saying, here's what we're going to send to you. She's really been saying, what do you think about these classes? And I would just like to say, when she started to talk about that healthcare and agriculture were sort of the next ones coming, that she saw the need. We have a great healthcare in a variety of ways, healthcare management, nursing, but we have a great business program, and we're starting to add some agricultural business classes because of this. And really all of these things start to kind of then roll together, where when Julie said agriculture was the next one, we're starting to look at ag business and some of those courses. So again, I think that's what a good partnership does, that they give us ideas and we give them ideas.
Yeah.
And for me, the what's next, I'm going to flip to the state policy hat, as really educating ISB, ICCB, and IBHE on the challenges and why the IAI panel is needed. So when we talk about equity, access, and affordability, we've been able to accomplish this for my one high school, plus the 12 others in the OCAL area. Obviously, there are over 850 districts in the state of Illinois, but really it's what SEPI's vision was originally, that we found success locally. Now, how do we scale it statewide? Because quite honestly, if I wouldn't have found Julie as she transitioned into her new role, would we be here today? Quite honestly, I do not think so. So we were invested at Vandalia School District. The OCAL board was invested. Kaskaskia College was invested. We needed Julie with her perseverance to push through all the bureaucracy to get us to this place. And you've heard us all say, putting the student first, oftentimes in policy conversations. I've not heard that shift yet. It's really elevating that voice and continuing to bring it forward, whether you're at the ISB table, ICCB, or IBHE.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. That's exactly right. So thank you all very much. And we look forward to continuing this work in your region and throughout Illinois. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.